Hey, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Effing Podcast. I am your host. Some people call me the Space Cowboy, others call me the Gangster of Love, and some even call me Maurice, but you can call me the JFB, James from Boston.
And you may know me as the godfather of effing wrestling. You may know me as your Canadian hero, but I am all bubbly and full of ginger. I'm Canada Dry!
Yeah! All right, so we have an awesome episode, but we are joined by an equally awesome guest. He is from the land of haggis and bagpipes. Ladies and gentlemen,
Roddy
welcome
Piper.
Alex Haney, baby.
Oh, it's not Roddy Piper?
No, it's not Roddy Piper.
I wish it was Roddy Piper.
Well,
welcome back. Yeah, welcome back to the show, Alex, man. It's good to have you on here.
Definitely. It's always good to be on.
All right, so normally we start with the news that's fit to print for the week that happened this previous week. However, we are doing something a little different. We are doing kind of a potpourri. We're going to grab a couple of news stories and kind of dive deep into it. So our first one is going to be the passing of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Paul Parlett Orndorff passed away on July 12th. It's known that he had dementia problems later in life within the last year. And many may have contributed to his actual death. A little info about Mr. Orndorff. He started in Mid-South before moving to NWA, where he was the national heavyweight champion for NWA. He found his way home to WWE, where his manager was Roddy Piper. And Piper gave him the nickname Mr. Wonderful. He would headline WrestleMania 1 with Piper and Mr. T against him and Piper versus Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. Then he had a face turn, then had a heel turn, and eventually went into one of the longest rivalries with Hulk Hogan, and probably one of the more better known rivalries back in the rock and roll era of wrestling. He retired, came back to WCW for a brief moment.
He was part of the Old Age Outlaws.
Yes, and then he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. Guys, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Let's talk about his career and where he sits in the echelon of professional wrestling.
Who won the coin flip backstage?
You did.
I won again. Is that how many times in a row have I won?
That's like 8.
Not 8. So Mr. Wonderful, what can I say? Like, what a great name for a wrestler. Like, nothing better than that name. Like, that speaks to my childhood so much. That turn on Hulk Hogan, I think I can probably speak for all three of us, that just seeps into our childhood. Just like one of the greatest moments in WWE history, even with that turn on Hulk Hogan, just set up so nicely. And we're probably all crying. When he Hogan. It was heartbreaking, but wow. And just seeing, it was sad seeing how different he looked in his last days.
Yeah.
To his like glory days.
Yeah.
Didn't even look like the same guy.
No, he didn't. And when that picture came out, I almost was like, "That's not Mr. Wonderful." What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, that picture was when they were talking about it a few weeks ago. You sort of look at it, and you even back then you were thinking about the stature the man had, around everybody else. He was his first sort of, what was it, guy that comes to mind for that. Obviously, what you think of the golden era outside Hulk Hogan of that sort of stature,
Yeah.
The build, the athleticism he had, and what a pile driver he had as well,
Oh, yeah.
That pile driver, yeah, good point.
Yeah, probably one of the best. You know?
Yeah, he was. I mean, I grew up watching WWE, and seeing him really wrestling. He was a force. I mean, he was a top guy. He was always under Hogan, and I think that's kind of what built that rivalry was the constant reminder that Hulk is here and Paul Orndorff is right there.
It made them work for it, though.
You guys
Go ahead now.
I'm saying sorry, I do apologize. He made it work for him, though. He made Hogan work for that top spot,
Oh, yeah.
and that run. Some of the very famous matches they had,
Yeah.
and it was unfortunate. I mean, now looking back, we knew that he was going through some sort of issues. It obviously forced him to retire. You wonder if that wasn't the case, would he have got that sort of run?
Yeah.
You just don't know. You just don't know. But
it would have been an amazing heel run. I mean, that rivalry when he turned heel and there was that big chase leading up to their confrontation was brilliant, and that's back in the day when you took time to tell a story and let it develop, as opposed to now where you give up.
My only complaint about it is they should have had a WrestleMania match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Saturday Saturday main events blow off. That'd be cool if they were Saturday Night Live, right? The Saturday main event blow off with the steel cage where Orndorff looked like he might have won, and there was the debate, the controversy.
Yeah.
But that's why classic wrestling was the best, at that time, because of some of that stuff that was there, the WWF at the time was very much fit up that you were meant to follow the good guy and detest the bad guy, and it was just hard to do. I always seemed to like the bad guys.
I think the old glory days of wrestling. Sorry to poke at you here, but it's kind of like you watch Dukes of Hazzard now, and it's not as good as when we were kids.
No, definitely not.
It's not as good as when we were kids. And I watched some old matches, and I'm like, this guy just sucks. It's slow. It's slow.
Yeah, it's definitely, wrestling has evolved. As you get into different eras, it evolves, and it has to, because the product changes all the time.
I think the one match that really stands up over time is Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage. That match really stands up over time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about, and Hogan versus Macho Man. I mean, that was a year in the making.
Yeah.
I mean, that was brilliant storytelling to get that mega powers to eventually they were going to separate. They were going to break apart, and they were going to fight each other. And it's the same with Orndorff and Hogan. They were tag team partners, and he got jealous of Hogan, and a good 6-7 months of storytelling. Because back then you had that time. You didn't have Raw, so you had Saturday Night Main Event. You had other, the other shows too, so they could build up that tension on house shows and get people to put their butts in the couches and watch that match with Hogan.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So number 2, Impact Wrestling had their second largest pay-per-view, which is Slammiversary. And for those who did not watch, pause the podcast, pay the $24.99 and watch it. It was from start to finish was a great pay-per-view from Impact. They are a dark horse when it comes to the other promotions per se. The big surprise.
Would you say this is our best pay-per-view in a while?
I think it's best overall with everybody. I think it's been the best pay-per-view this year. Your title match was Kenny Omega, who's also the AEW and Impact champion. Took on Sami Callihan in a bloody, violent, vicious match. And then Jay White from New Japan Pro Wrestling shows up at the end. And when the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega put up the Too Sweet, he dropped it. He didn't even offer it. So you're setting up a prime rivalry between Bullet Club and the Elite down the line. So,
that should be
did you
exciting.
guys watch Slammiversary?
I didn't, but I'm going to. I heard the news. I've got the check marks on what happened. The Good Brothers won the tag belts.
Yes, they did. They came back and won the tag belts. Juice came back too. David Finlay and Juice Robertson came in and came back to Impact. But Jay White showing up. So in this pay-per-view, you guys had AEW, you guys had New Japan Pro Wrestling, AAA, NWA, and Impact. You had 5 different organizations in this one pay-per-view. So
the forbidden door is broken.
It's gone. It got blown off the hinges. So what does this do for what does this do for your smaller promotions like NWA and Impact? What does this do for your mid guys like AEW? Does this put a lot of pressure on WWE? What do we say here?
Well, I'll start with the WWE thing. I don't think they'll change anything of what they're doing. So, but I think you've got to the WWE. You've got to take that out of the equation, though, because they're not really. I know it's been said at this point they're not really a wrestling company, are they? You know, I mean, look at some of the bizarre things they've been doing. I mean, even like recently with Drew, with the ridiculous sort of cartoony promos about Loch Ness and.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
You know, it's funny, you know, but you've got a guy there you want to take serious. You know, he looks the part. He looks like that wrestler you liked when you were watching wrestling back in the day. You know, and he's doing stupid things like that. You know, and you know, it's just. I think WWE's on their path. I'm guessing they've got something planned. They keep on saying they've got something planned. They've been saying that for the last 5 years, but they don't seem to do it yet. So who knows?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that you say that because I got into a debate on Facebook with someone, and I read a tweet from What Culture Wrestling, which brought up a very valid point. WWE is a content producer. They produce content. AEW, NWA, Impact, they are wrestling promotions. Now, WWE just happens to be that some of their product centers around wrestling, but they're a content producer. So when you look at it that way, then these crazy storylines start actually making sense, you know?
I think that WWE will not change until it starts hurting their bottom dollar financially.
Yeah.
They feel no pressure from AEW nipping at their heels because the money keeps pouring in.
Yeah.
And they will not change the product until it starts hurting them financially.
Yeah.
The best way for me to describe WWE is they're making just on what you were saying as well. They're making TikTok content. You know, they're making 3 or 4 minute videos that. I mean, I've had the discussion as well. I've always said for the last 4 or 5 years, I don't think the WWE is even interested in the viewership of what Raw and SmackDown are. I know a lot of wrestling fans make a big deal of it, you know, but at the end of the day, what happens after Raw and SmackDown? The wrestling fans go on to critique, you know, so they go and look at the videos, they see what's there. The casual fans look at what's there to see what they did on the show, you know, and they're getting millions of hits on these individual videos with advertisement and all sorts, you know. So they've got a very clever business model that's just that. It's a business model it's not really about the wrestling. It's about that bottom line, you know, money, you know, and they're making a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just like a player in his he just got his big contract, and all of a sudden he's not producing the way he used to. But all of a sudden that last year of his contract comes up, and all of a sudden what happens? He starts scoring goals. He starts hitting home runs. He starts scoring touchdowns.
Yep.
Surprise.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the thing that a lot of people seem to forget is WWE is a publicly traded company. they're responsible to answering to only two people, the board of directors and stockholders. And, they have done a great job of streamlining their product. They've released a lot of big name wrestlers. They've let go of a lot of people in corporate, but at the end of the day, it's all about making money. That is the whole point of WWE and Vince McMahon, is to make money for the shareholders, not for anybody else. And you can go with that and complain and say, well, they're not wrestling anymore. They haven't been wrestling for a while. The minute they start doing reality TV shows with the Bella Twins, the minute that they start doing, Table for Three, as soon as they start doing other content, they are no longer a wrestling promotion. They are.
Is not bad.
Yeah. No, and don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on WWE. I think Vince is a genius for what Vince has done with wrestling, but with Impact and Ring of Honor and all these small and mid-tier promotions, it's a great time to be a fan, because you really don't know at this point who's going to show up from what promotion to challenge.
My dream is that they have a giant pay-per-view together.
Yeah.
To make their own sort of real WrestleMania.
Yeah. Oh, I'd pay $100 to see that.
I'd be ecstatic to see that.
Who goes over in that situation though? That's a tricky situation,
Yeah. Well, yeah, the promoters got to work together.
Yeah.
You're going to have to.
Bigger stars go over, obviously.
Yeah. You're going to have to come to some agreement at if you're having like a fatal four-way with Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, and AEW, who's going to go over, and money talks, and AEW right now has got a buttload of cash.
Yeah, and like it's showing right now that Kenny Omega is the draw for Impact.
Yeah.
So obviously he's going over.
Yeah. And the whole belt collector idea is freaking phenomenal, because now there's a chance he may go for the New Japan Pro Wrestling never open weight title and take it from Jay White, and now you're talking about 4 different promotions that Kenny Omega has a belt in, which, to me as a wrestling fan is pretty awesome. I love it. I'm all for it. Open the door, let everybody come in, we'll figure out rules and who wins and who loses. Well, let the guys with the money figure that out. As a fan, that's what I want to see. I want to see, somebody from, Noah come on from Japan and appear on AEW and take the TNT title.
And know what I like about this combination of promotions is you get to see people you don't know about and learn about them. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, our next topic is so it's been teased, a lot of rumor and innuendo about AEW, that there is some big news coming on the pipeline in the next few weeks, and it's being speculated that it could be some new signings, possibly a new belt, or even a new show or pay-per-view. So let's talk about signings. Who do we think might be coming down the pipeline for AEW? From the promotion up north?
Go ahead, Alex.
I'm not too sure. I know who people think it is.
Yeah.
But who do you think it is?
I think it might be one of the Japanese guys now. If from what's happened on Impact,
Yeah.
I don't think Jay's there for Kenny. I genuinely don't think Jay's there for Kenny. He was just he just came out to sort of say that, look, I'm here and I'm here for somebody,
Yeah.
So maybe one of the big Japanese guys coming in. I mean, they've already had the run in there with Mox, So I'm guessing the obvious one there is Okada, or Ibushi, So who knows, It'd be interesting. Jericho interestingly mentioned who was it he mentioned recently? Is it Takahashi?
Yeah.
He recently mentioned his name, So is that is there something in that? Is he going to have a wee run over here?
Yeah.
Sort of compared them to some of the big names in WWE.
Yeah.
So possibly one of the guys.
Yeah, I can easily see that. What do you think, Canada Dry?
Well, Canada Dry thinks this. Canada Dry, he's going to make a prediction here.
Okay.
CM Punk and Brian Danielson, the American Dragon, show up in AEW. And if he doesn't, I will apologize profusely on this show. I will say the Canada Dry is wrong.
Which is hardly ever.
Will you forfeit any title you have in the AFW at the time?
I don't have a title, so I have no title to put up. So
yeah.
I'll say this: out of the three that we mentioned, the signings, the pay-per-view, and the new belt, I think the signing is probably going to be kind of lower. I don't really see it being a big thing. I agree. We might start seeing some guys from New Japan and some guys from Noah. I know Brian Danielson's name is getting tossed around like somebody wrote it on a bathroom wall for a good time called Brian Danielson. But CM Punk would be interesting.
have you not seen the hints from Kyle Prescott?
I have seen the hints. I have. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge CM Punk mark. I absolutely loved him in Ring of Honor, loved him on the Indies, thought he was amazing in WWE. But he's also he's very critical of AEW. Now, this may be a work, it may be a shoot.
Did you see him on the Renee Paquette podcast?
No, I did not. I didn't realize he was on.
He said, what would it take for you? She asked, what would it take for you to be to come to AEW?
Yeah.
And he said, a buttload of money.
Yeah.
And a program that makes sense.
Yeah.
And pretty much he named Kenny Omega as someone he really wants to wrestle.
Oh, I don't blame him. I would, if I was anybody that's not affiliated with WWE or even WWE, I'd want to fight Kenny Omega because right now he's top of the food chain,
Yeah. I've got no interest in seeing Punk, to be honest. I think he's been away for far too long, and if it goes back, and wrestling fans can be quite critical, and you can sort of remember the way people were rather than what just. I'm going to throw a name out there, possibly. I mean, the guy's all about money, isn't he? And his name's Brock Lesnar. I mean,
oh, please no, please.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. You got bills to pay. You have a family to feed and take care of. So, if somebody's going to throw money at a wrestler and the wrestler doesn't take it, it boggles my mind. I see CM Punk coming in possibly to do a good 3 or 4 month run as a wrestler and then being more vocal and more profound in the back because you got a lot of young talent like Jungle Boy, MJF. You got a lot of young talent back there that needs veteran producers and veteran leadership, guys like Punk who have been in their position, and can offer them, his experiences of being in mid-major promotions and indies and being on the big, being on the top of the food chain for WWE.
Did you guys see Paul White say he's going to be part of that New York show wrestling?
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be the Shaq match.
Oh,
I have a feeling it's going to be the Shaq match.
I really hope he's Captain Insano, though. That is such a great character.
So, what do we think about about a possibility of a new belt? I know they've talked about the trios belt. They've talked about a women's tag team belt. They've talked about quite a few different belts coming in and out. So what do we think about it? To me, it makes sense for it to be a new belt. I'm not big on trios belts. I never really have been a big fan of the trios belt. 6 guys in the ring is a lot of confusion. And in my elder state, my brain can't handle it. But, a women's tag belt, I think makes sense. It's a good way, or even a TNT belt for the women's division. So it's, on Rampage, and it gets more women involved with other storylines. Because for some reason, the internet wrestling community loves to bash on AEW because they feel that they're not taking advantage of the women's division. So thoughts on the new belt?
Go ahead, Alex.
I'm neither here nor there on it on a new belt. I mean, I do think that there's definitely one coming, and I know there's.
I think we lost him. I'll go ahead. I think that it's going to be the women's mid-card belt.
Yeah.
Because they just lost the NWA women's belt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's back in the NWA.
And they found it was really working for them. So
yeah,
why not replace it?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Sorry guys, I get disconnected. Sorry.
Looked like somebody else was going to join us.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So what do you think about a new belt, Alex?
I mean, I was just saying. I mean, I think it's inevitable there will be another belt. I mean, what it'll be, I think you're probably right. It probably should be more in line with the sort of women division. So they've got some really, really good wrestlers on that side. And a bit more TV time for them. Because it's interesting. I mean, AEW is all about opportunity, but in the last few months, it's really all been about, if you think about it, the Pinnacle, the Elite, with Amaga and things like that, it's revolved around that, so in Inner Circle, it was predominantly, we've had the stuff with Darby Allin, with the, what was it, the coffin match and things like that, so it'd definitely be interesting to see some of these, tag team belts being defended by the women. I've not seen too much women's tag team wrestling, not since like the Japan in the early 90s. Yeah. So
I think the problem with that tag team belt for women is that unless they can get another show that's just for women on maybe YouTube, I think they have a problem because the networks are only letting them wrestle once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on Rampage, you get twice a week. So how are you going to defend this women's belt and this tag team women's belt? How are you going to do it?
Well, I think in all honesty, it's just going to take a concerted effort with Tony Khan and the rest of the executive vice presidents to really kind of find a way to hammer in more women's wrestling. Because to me, I think the women's division in AEW is by and far 100 times better than it is in WWE or even in Japan, with the exception of like Shimmer and your female centric promotions. They have the best women's division. I don't think WWE even comes close with talent.
Well, I think talent wise WWE does, but the way they're using them in AEW might be a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, people might laugh, but for me, you talk about WWE and women's wrestling. The WWE for me has got the best wrestler on their roster.
Yeah,
and that's for me is Asuka. She's just
she's good.
She's just. I mean, I'm not just talking women. With ability and things like that. It's just a shame we don't get to see a fraction of what she's capable of.
Well, just like Shinsuke Nakamura, I think the language barrier kind of shuts her down with that.
Yeah.
I
mean, to me, she's probably one of the best all-around wrestlers right now, performing at least in the major promotions. Deonna Purrazzo, who retained the Knockouts Championship on Impact against Thunder Rosa last night. Deonna is just a huge wrestler. I mean, she is fantastic, and it's a shame because Impact doesn't get a lot of eyes because it's on AXS TV, and it's a smaller station and it's not carried by everybody, so you don't get as many eyes on her as you would with, say, somebody from AEW or WWE. But I think she's one of the top 5 women wrestling today.
And I gotta say this just before we, if we're going to close on the women, Natalia Markova is just as good as any of them.
Yeah,
like she could go, and they really need to get their heads out of their asses and sign her.
Yeah. I agree. She and the 2 dark matches that she's had for AEW were absolutely 3. Sorry, were absolutely fantastic. The one with Abaddon, I thought, was probably one of her best works for AEW.
Yeah, in the short squash match, she was able to sell like crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's her job. I mean, until she gets signed and she can get into a decent storyline and make some headway, as dark talent, that's her job, is to put over the bigger name. And she did it with Tay Conti. She did it with Abaddon. She did an absolutely fantastic job. So it's interesting because the possibility of AEW doing another pay-per-view, because there's a huge gap between pay-per-views. You're talking 3-4 months. So I think another possibility of a rumor is possibly 1, 2, or maybe 3 additional pay-per-views. We know we got Rampage, so I don't think they're going to do another show, but I think they might add at least 1 or 2 or maybe 3 pay-per-views.
Well, let's not forget the NWA have got a pay-per-view coming up as well. It's an all women pay-per-view, so they'll be needing some names.
Good segue.
So yeah. So who's going to show up there?
Oh, who knows? Who knows? I mean, with that
door, a couple of AEW stars that show up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, with that door being wide open, I mean, it's it's a pay-per-view you'll want to watch because you don't know who's going to show up. I mean, Mickey James is wrestling, we know that. The NWA champion is wrestling, we know that. But outside of those, and maybe Thunder Rosa, who knows? I mean, who knows who comes through gorilla position and through the curtain and comes out on the ramp. So,
yep.
All right. So this Sunday. So you'll be listening to this on Monday and watching it on Thursday. But this past Sunday was Money in the Bank. And so I posed a question to my 2 guest hosts, and I said, Canada Dry, Alex Haney, James from Boston, let's pick our top 5, if you will, either matches or cash-ins for Money in the Bank. And then we'll go ahead and kind of prognosticate who we think is going to win the Money in the Bank. So Alex, being our guest, how would you like to go first? What is your number 5 Money in the Bank match or cash-in?
So for me, my number 5 is probably, and I do apologize. I sort of wanted to take a little bit of a different direction with it, So I've picked 5 instances where the cash-in has an interesting sort of, well, not the cash-in, the winner has an interesting sort of outcome to it, So I think the first thing I would pick probably that for me that makes that I enjoyed was when Damien Sandow won it. I think that was in 2013.
Yep, absolutely.
And what's interesting for me is he was just at the start of that big sort of he was super over with the sort of the fans, and it was another example of wasted opportunity in the WWE where they eventually sort of lost his opportunity, and for me it just he wasn't able to cash in and win, and that was a sort of time when I thought, what are they doing,
Yeah,
they're looking for these guys that get themselves super over, and then they do that.
And he had the best case. I love that chocolate brown case he had.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Canada Dry, who is your number 5?
My number 5 is Carmella. I just love that they had why can't I remember his name? The Chinless Wonder come up and get the
Ellsworth, yes.
what's his name?
James Ellsworth.
Yeah.
Ellsworth. Love that they used James Ellsworth to help her win.
Yeah.
That was such a fun gimmick. And a guy like Ellsworth could never get a girl like Carmella, so it was just fun. I love Carmella getting that Money in the Bank.
My number 5 is WrestleMania 21. This is the original, the OG, if you will, of Money in the Bank. It makes my list because, like every great movie franchise, generally the first one is usually the go-to one. That's the one that you'll rewatch over and over and over again. This is no different. You had Edge, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Christian, Kane, and Shelton Benjamin, who is a huge underdog. He's been in 5 Money in the Bank matches.
Yep.
Jericho, of course, is responsible for coming up with the idea. He actually pitched it to Vince because he was not on the card for WrestleMania. And so he went to Vince and said, I have this idea. We put a contract in a suitcase, in a briefcase. We hang it up. You climb a ladder. You get a title shot. And Vince said, book it. And so they did. And you would think Jericho, being the one who originated this, would have won the first one, but it did not happen. It went to the rated R superstar Edge, who was kind of dwindling in the mid card at that time.
I'm surprised you put that at number 5. That's way up there.
I know. I got other stuff, man. You should see my top 5 list.
Just a quick question on that. Was that near the end of the first Jericho run?
It was on the tail end of the first Jericho run.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the original Money in the Bank, which was WrestleMania 21. Alex, number 4.
So Brock Lesnar winning the Money in the Bank. It absolutely made no sense to me whatsoever. All it did,
and he wasn't even in the match.
All
was he?
it did was
at the end, right?
I think he just showed up at the end, and laid waste to everybody, and then took the case.
Didn't even do the work.
He's the ultimate opportunist.
How
can you chide him for that? He's the ultimate opportunist.
Are you always frozen? I was like, why isn't he saying anything?
He's dead. He died again. Holy Christopher Columbus.
So I guess
go ahead and do your number 4. What is your number 4?
Is The Miz, because The Miz won it a number of times. He was great holding that Money in the Bank. Not so much the last one.
Yeah,
but I enjoyed him on the earlier ones.
Yeah.
So, sorry, guys, I'm not having much luck with the connection. It keeps on dropping out.
Go ahead.
You had you frozen, and we were like, why isn't he saying anything?
Go ahead and share your number 4.
Yeah, so my number 4. Well, my number 4 is Brock Lesnar because what a waste of an opportunity for somebody else to have. I mean, the guys had everything. You know, I get the idea. Everybody doesn't like him, you know, and it's taken sort of another sort of opportunity for wrestling fans, but it just wasn't needed. They mocked it. They did some funny stuff with it for a couple of weeks, and then eventually they did what they did with it, you know. So that was my number 4.
All right, my number 4 is the cash-in of Edge in 2006. After winning it after winning it in 2005, Edge had a year to plot and plan his cash-in, and Edge did it right. No one could have seen the cash-in would do for this Hall of Fame career. At New Year's Revolution, Edge handed Mr. McMahon the briefcase, cashed in against so he cashed in against John Cena. Sorry, I had a big, huge brain fart. Who just came out of an Elimination Chamber match. He was exhausted. He was beaten. He was bloodied, and Edge took advantage of it And then after a couple spares, Edge was the new world champion. The reason why I picked this was because the anticipation, which is what is so great about Money in the Bank, that's what sold this as a gimmick match. Was when is Edge going to cash it in? Is Edge going to cash it in? Who's it going to be against? And he went in and took out Cena. To me, that was mine. So New Year's Revolution of 2006, Edge cashing in Money in the Bank. Alex, what is your number 3?
So my number 3 is the whole fiasco last year with Otis. What was that about? And first we've got the what was it? The recreation of the old gold GameCube sort of in the building, sort of wrestling up to the top of the building to get to the main boss, sort of thing. What was that? WrestleMania, I think it was. Yeah, on the GameCube. Then obviously there was a couple of murders that happened with the guy getting thrown off.
Was there a video game that did this?
Yeah,
sorry.
There was a wrestling game that had this exact same concept.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, it was on the GameCube. I think it was the one before Day of Reckoning, the Day of Reckoning series.
Yeah.
And basically, it was based on this. Yeah, you just basically had to work your way up the building, and defeat wrestlers.
Yeah.
You went along scaffolding and everything. Very,
was it at least fun in the game?
Sorry.
Was it fun in the game? Was it entertaining to play? Was it entertaining to play?
It was all right. It was it wasn't your typical wrestling game. It was just a sort of beat 'em up. It played like a wrestling game, but you ended up in like a car park and then in office areas and things like that. Interesting game, interesting concept. Who would have known it foreshadowed what was going to happen? But that whole one was just bizarre to me. Last year. From start to finish. And then the whole thing with Otis was super over again, even though the sort of fans weren't there. And then that sort of like, as soon as that came to a conclusion, it was sort of buried. And then I think was it Hell in a Cell that the Miz finally got it off of Otis, and then
that was so anticlimactic the way that happened.
Yes, I know, and then just what was the point?
And his tag team partner, that was just like
his tag team partner attacked him and then got released like a month later.
Yeah, you didn't even finish the feud between them.
Yeah. Otis and Tucker. Canada Dry, what is your number 3?
Because it is Jake Hager's only world title shot, only world title. I'm going to go Jake Hager, Jack Swagger, when he cashed in on Chris Jericho.
Yep.
The night after WrestleMania.
Yep.
Good for him that he actually got to a world title run. It's kind of neat. I just like it.
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it. I always thought he was very underutilized.
And it was a memorable thing that you actually remember. Some of these you don't even remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they put him with Dutch, I don't know was he with Dutch at that point?
I think he was with Dutch at that point.
I don't think he was. Not yet.
Oh, not yet? Okay.
Was it okay.
It wasn't the American. He was still the All-American.
Okay.
We the People yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my number 3 is WrestleMania 24. Again, it's a gimmick match for WrestleMania. You had Carlito, Jericho, John Morrison, Mr. Kennedy, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, again, of course, and CM Punk. How could this not have been an amazing match? It was never dull, never had a slow moment from the time the bell rung until we had our winner. Morrison did a moonsault with a ladder, not over a ladder, with a ladder to the outside of the ring. Benjamin dove through ladders, and Carlito giving a backstabber to Jericho. It was truly a spot fest from start to finish. But in the end, it was CM Punk's first victory that he took the briefcase, and I consider to be one of the best Money in the Bank matches. He would later cash in. But yeah, this was the first time we started seeing CM Punk as a legitimate made guy at that point. Alex. No, go ahead. If you got
I
something,
was just going to say, don't you miss Money in the Bank at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
I don't like it as a pay-per-view. I'd rather the one match.
Yeah.
Even having two matches
You
with
know.
the women would be fine.
Yeah. So what is your number 2?
So my number 2 is Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah.
Again, you know, we know the story behind that, you know, and what happened, and the stuff with Randy and things like that. You wonder where that could have possibly went if he didn't have these sort of incidents that occurred. You know, eventually, I think he eventually lost it. Was it Edge that took it off him? I think, if I remember right.
Yeah. Yep.
But it was he was somebody that came about around about that time, and you just thought he was going to be a big name, and then it didn't happen. You know, it sort of fell apart for him, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, he was another guy who just kind of fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah. I think he's in. Is he now? He's done some. He did some sort of NWA stuff, didn't he? So
he was an Impact as Mr. Anderson as well.
Yeah.
All right, Canada Dry. Who is your number dos?
Well, I have to change it because you just did mine with CM Punk, so I'm gonna do a.
But was it not 2 CM Punk?
Yeah, there was 2. He won 2.
Well, I'm gonna do a switch just because we want to keep it. I'm gonna do Seth Rollins cash in.
Oh.
At WrestleMania. Just waited, held that thing all year, and finally cashed in after Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. What a screw job.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting you say that because that is also my number 2. I will even I'll further go into it.
Go ahead.
So he opens up WrestleMania as the 3rd match against Randy Orton. He gets beaten very quickly by Randy Orton with an RKO out of nowhere. So you go through 20 minutes of hell with Randy Orton. You think it's going to be business as usual. It's Lesnar. It's Roman Reigns. It's going to be what the fans don't want, you know. And then all of a sudden he comes down with that briefcase. He curb stomps Lesnar, goes for the pin. Reigns spears him. He kicks Lesnar out, curb stomps Reigns, pulls him up for the pin, grabs the belt, and runs up that ramp and starts whipping it around. That was, to me, you know, it was fucking amazing to watch him. That's the greatest theft of all time. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody.
Can I just say what the greatest theft of all time was the fact that I didn't get to see it live.
Yeah,
because by that point here in the UK, it was like 4:30 in the morning, and I thought, we don't really want to sit through Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. So you know what, we'll pick it up in the morning, see what happens.
As long as you didn't read the internet dirt sheets, you'd be okay. As long as you didn't get a spoiler.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I didn't. It was managed to catch it before it got sort of spoiled, you know. But you know, and I was like, but yeah, what an opportunity! Is that the only time it was? Is that the only time it was ever cashed in during a match, or has that happened before?
I think it's happened before. I'm not totally sure. I think it's happened at least once or twice.
I wasn't
the cash in during a match.
Yep.
I thought it was just freaking brilliant because you know, Rollins really wasn't, you know, that's what makes these Money in the Bank cash-ins is it makes you a made man. It puts you on a different level than the rest of your competitors by cashing in. I mean, it's made Edge into a Hall of Famer. It's made CM Punk into a Hall of Famer. It made, it made Seth Rollins possibly, you know, a Hall of Famer at some point, you know?
Yeah, it was the greatest, I can't remember who said it, but it was the greatest diamond heist of all time, you know? Yeah. He came down and just stole the whole show. Yeah. It was just amazing.
Yeah, people were aghast.
Number 1?
Yeah, what is your number 1?
So my number 1 is interesting, and it was in 2012, and it's when Dolph Ziggler won the Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
You know, again, another guy that just seems to sort of float about, gets a little title run here and there, and amazing talent. But the reason I picked this one was for an interesting reason. So the participants in that match were Christian, Cody Rhodes, Damien Sandow, Santino Marella, Sin Cara, Tensei, and Tyson Kidd.
Yeah.
So look at all the lost opportunity in the WWE for all the names. Tensei, obviously, huge in Japan, what was it called? Big guy.
Big Bernard.
Didn't really go over. Tyson Kidd, we know what happened, unfortunately, there,
Yeah.
But you've got Cody, Christian, and they're in sort of AEW now. What was it? I don't know what Santino's doing, but but obviously Sandow seems to be keeping back into the sort of maybe he's finding that sort of love again for wrestling, because obviously it sounded like for a little while there, the WWE sort of, like so many, beat it out of him.
Yeah.
So that's my top 5.
Sweet. Canada Dry, what is your numero uno?
Okay, so I'm going to do a two-parter here.
All right, go for it.
So I'm going with Daniel Bryan with his cash in.
Okay.
But we're going to quickly push that aside.
Okay.
And say, what a tragedy that Chris Jericho didn't win a Money in the Bank.
That's true.
If Chris Jericho had won a Money in the Bank, it would be my number 1. So I'm putting it there anyway.
It is strange that the man who originated the idea of Money in the Bank did not win a Money in the Bank at all.
And that's my Chris Jericho impression. You just made the list.
You got to ask yourself, though, he was kind of a made man at that point. Do you really think he needed to win a Money in the Bank?
Well, a lot of them were made men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, CM Punk didn't need it twice.
That's true. Yeah, but the second time and the second cash in led into the summer of Punk in the WWE with him and John Cena. It was a great, that momentum catapulted him into being a superstar at that point.
But I think getting back to Jericho, I think that he was always about putting others over, and so I think he didn't really push for it and for himself. I think he was always trying to help others. So I think why he didn't win.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. My number 1 is Money in the Bank from 2011. That was when Daniel Bryan won the Money in the Bank. You had Wade Barrett, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, Kane, Sin Cara, Cody Rhodes, and Daniel Bryan. You had a lot of young guys or mid-card guys that had an opportunity to really get catapulted. It ticked off a lot of boxes. Daniel Bryan was kind of getting out of that whole Nexus situation. He was kind of floundering through the WWE. But in the end, he took hold of the briefcase and, had a less than stellar cash in.
Do you remember Daniel Bryan had the U.S. title?
Yeah.
And the nameplate on it was only screwed in one time and it was kind of flopping.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was like, couldn't believe they did that. I was like, is that a joke? Did he do that on purpose?
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, this cash in was not as great as the win, but it catapulted Daniel Bryan into that superstar level where, he was the underdog for the common man to, promote the Yes movement and get him, into a point where he, won several championships. Yep. So let's talk about Money in the Bank 2021. We'll go with the men first. You have Ricochet, John Morrison, Riddle, Drew McIntyre, Big E, Kevin Owens, Nakamura, and Seth Rollins.
We'll see if our predictions are right here because we'll know the answer when we're listening to the show. So
that's true.
I'm going to go with
the answer.
I'm going to go with Big E.
Big E.
Oh,
You're going to go with Big E too?
Yeah.
Oh, make that a treble. I was going for Big E as well. I thought Big E.
So we're going all in on Big E.
Yeah, Big E, man. I gotta hitch my rocket to that guy. I have a feeling he needs a stupendous championship run.
I'm going to go one further with that and predict that Big E's going to leave Money in the Bank as a champion.
Oh, you think he's going to cash in?
Going out on a limb.
Oh,
yep.
He's going to pull a Kane. He's going to win and then cash in that same night.
Yeah,
I like it.
Especially with Lashley and Kofi.
Yeah, that I don't get me wrong. I love Kofi Kingston. He's from Boston, Massachusetts. I liked him when he was a fake Jamaican. And
Jamaican?
Yeah, he was Jamaican man. I was Jamaican, and
Your Jamaican accent is horrible.
that was well. I remember that. What was it with the DX thing? It says, "Aren't you Jamaican?"
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Because he's like, "Come on, guys."
And I loved his initial championship run. It was really good to get that underdog feel with Kofi Kingston. But Big E, man, woo, that guy is going to be lit. We lost Alex again. He is going to be on fire. Any more thoughts about Big E?
No, but I hope that he wins Money in the Bank tonight or yesterday.
Yes, yesterday.
It's so funny when you're pre-taping.
Yeah, you'll hear this on Monday. So unfortunately, Money in the Bank will already be gone. I don't know if I'm going to watch it live. I may watch it live. I may not. I don't know. I'm still kind of tossing up and down whether or not I'd watch it in the morning.
What about this? We have the Adrian Adonis shirt.
Oh wait, we got the women's. We got the women's first.
Oh,
we got to do the women.
We'll get to that.
My God, jumping the gun here.
I'm always jumping the gun. It's what I do.
All right, so the women, we have Asuka, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross or Nikki Ash, Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega, and Natalya and Tamina, Tamina. Who wins from the ladies?
I have no clue.
This is a huge toss-up.
Yeah, it's like
I kind of want to say Asuka, but deep down in my heart,
I have no clue.
Yeah, deep down in my secretly formed Canadian heart, I kind of want Natalya to win. I would like to see Natalya have one last run with the.
I'd love Natty to win it, but they're not going to let her win it.
No, I know.
No, it should either be Natty or Tamina. Tamina deserves it as well. What a talent that she is, and Natty as well. But I'm going to go a bit out there and say none of them will win it. I'm going to say Becky will win it.
Oh, you think Becky's going to show up and kind of steal it?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
That's nice to go on a limb. I like these limbs.
Now it would be cool if she ran in and was the one that knocked Asuka off the ladder, because remember she gave Asuka the belt as a gift because she was going to become a mother. So I think that would be apropos to have Bex come in. I like that. I like that. I might take that. I'm gonna steal that gimmick. I like it. All right. So that has been our episode 21. I'll take effing news for 1,000, Alex.
Alex, it's you.
Yeah. We went in depth on a lot of stuff. So tell them about the shirts.
So I jumped the gun a little earlier, but we got our Adrian Adonis shirts up on Pro Wrestling Tees, and happy to help the Adrian Adonis' family get those up. Yeah. Alex actually designed one, so we're just waiting for it to be approved. So hopefully by the time you're listening to this show, the new shirt that Alex designed here will be up. Yeah,
they're really cool shirts. Adrian Adonis, a shame that he's not been recognized a lot more for what he did and contributed to pro wrestling, and at least getting him into the Hall of Fame would be ideal. It would be great to have him in the Hall of Fame.
And that's our main goal, is to get Adrian in the Hall of Fame and get him some proper recognition. Like, what a contribution to the world of wrestling. And he died in 1988. And he's kind of been shoved underneath the limelight for too long. So
yeah.
Most definitely,
so we'll put it in the show notes. You can reach us, of course, on all the social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, FN Wrestling. We are doing something really cool. So we are starting a weekly email blast, and we'll have the link in the notes. But the cool part is, not only do you get kind of inside information, kind of sitting in gorilla position for the podcast and for everything that's FN Wrestling, but we are doing a monthly giveaway, which means that you have a chance to win prizes, and all you have to do is sign up for the email blast. And the first one, which ends in July, so only a couple more weeks, you get to get one of our shirts, either the Flippin' Bird or the Gimmick Boy shirt. So if you want to go ahead and get involved, click on the link in the show notes, and we'll go ahead and get you entered into the contest. And that will be good for all of the months that come ahead of Just Another FN Podcast and FN Wrestling.
And you're actually giving away an AEW action figure next month?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do an action figure, an AEW action figure from Ringside Collectibles. So
wow,
yeah,
nice.
So yeah, not gonna win gold bars here, but you're gonna win some cool stuff.
That's still pretty cool, man. And the sucks that I'm not eligible.
Me and Canada Dry are not eligible, so you will not see the JFB.
Alex Haney, you are eligible to win it though.
Yes,
awesome.
Alex, you are more than welcome to join in and get part of this contest. So on that note, Canada Dry, has Hulk Hogan ever gone back to you?
Hulk Hogan, I thought I saw it, like, like this little ... when you're messaging someone. I thought I saw it for a second there. And then nothing. I thought he was going to respond. My hope just jumped. But that means Hulk Hogan loses again by forfeit.
Yeah.
So that's Canada Dry 9.
9.
Hulk Hogan, a big old goose egg, baby. Ding, 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 ding.